Welcome to the AI Accelerator Podcast, where we turn AI from a corporate buzzword into an unfair advantage. I'm Matt Zembruski, and this is the show for leaders who are done talking about AI and ready to execute. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Cohen-Dumani, a technologist with more than 30 years of experience driving digital transformation across industries. As a former partner and market leader at Witham Digital, Daniel was at the forefront of applying AI and machine learning to rethink how professional services firms operate, from knowledge management to intelligent automation and decision support. Today, as the founder of Experio Labs, Daniel focuses on building the operating system for professional services to strive in the age of AI, while helping leaders navigate one of the most disruptive moments the professional services industry has ever faced. Daniel's deeply committed to pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI while staying grounded in the human realities of change, identity, and leadership. Daniel, welcome to the AI Accelerator Podcast. It's great to have you
here. Thank you, Matt. It's great being here today.
I'm really excited. I got a lot of questions. I've spent some of my career over the last 30 plus years in the professional services industry as well. So a lot of good things to talk about. I'm excited. And let's just start with, you've spent over 30 years in technology as well, digital transformation. From that vantage point, what feels fundamentally different about this technology moment, this AI moment that we're all in right now, compared to previous waves of innovation that we've seen?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. And let me start. I mean, I've been in this industry for 3 decades. I started my computing career before the internet, right? And I think a lot of people are making analogy between the dot-com boom years and where we are. And while a lot looks similar, it is fundamentally different. We're at the stage where the level of acceleration is reaching the point that we're starting to debate, can human catch up fast enough to the level of technology innovation? And here's a good analogy I haven't mentioned, but I was born in Switzerland. And I think AI can be thought about a great Swiss knife, right? And it has a lot of capabilities. And they have a lot of capabilities that are intended to be used for good, right? For the good of humanity. But like everything, you can take a Swiss knife and use it for things that are not so good. And I think that's what really is fundamentally different. We're faced at a point where we have something in our hand. We don't really know what's going to happen, right? And that's scary for a lot of people and for a lot of businesses, of course.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's so much, as we lean more into Swiss Army knife's a great analogy. It's a good metaphor. When professional services, there's so much there. I know when you talk about AI or talk about technology in general, a lot of times in professional services, they often jump straight into tools. These are the way, like Swiss Army knife. This is what we can do with this tool. This is what we can do with AI. From your perspective, in the professional services world today, what problem are they actually trying to solve, but they might be missing? Like, where's the confusion around this
Yeah.
technology?
I mean, and by the way, Matt, it's not just professional services. I think that, for every new technology innovation, leaders tend to want to, jump on the bandwagon before it's too late, right? So more and more, you're seeing organizations saying we have to do AI, we have to jump on this Gen AI train before it's too late. But I think what's really missing, and what I see missing across, of course, the professional services industry, but across every industry, is not focusing on what is the actual problem you're trying to solve, right? And when you think about professional services, which is all about leveraging what you've done, how you've done it, what's important for professional services is to be as effective as they can. But in this world of AI today, where you and I, Matt, we have access to the world knowledge at our fingertips on a phone. You can go to your favorite agent. I use Perplexity mostly, and Perplexity has a cool voice thing. And I always say, hey, Perplexity, tell me about this and this and that. And you know what? I'll get the answer I need. Um, but what it is that those professional services don't have, what are those agents don't have, is access to the proprietary data, the things about your firm that's not available, right? So, I think what people are missing is, sure, AI can make you more productive, but to what outcome, right? So they have to focus on the problem. They have to focus on what are the outcome, what are they trying to do, but also what are the implications. I think we're going to talk about a lot about what's going to happen in professional services. But those are the framework: problem, outcome, and then our implication of solving that problem. What is it going to mean for that organization?
That makes a lot of sense, Daniel. Bringing it back to first principles, which is really important whenever we're faced with all this change. The pace of change, as you said, is up so high right now. Let's talk a little bit more about professional services firms out there, big industry, right, globally, and whether or not it is the case. Do you believe professional services firms in the industry right now are facing more of an existential challenge with all this pressure from AI right now? Do you think that firms are at risk if they don't really rethink how to do what you're saying, how do they actually deliver value? Do they need to pivot from what they were doing? Do they just keep doing what they're doing and just sprinkle a little AI in? What are your thoughts on that?
I think all of the above. I think, is there an existential challenge? The answer is yes, absolutely. Um, you know, AI is one of those technology that will have an impact first on white collar worker. In all the previous industrial revolution, it was mostly blue collar worker that were impacted. This one is, it's going after the highly paid folks in the office, right? Um, there's a lot of talk on LinkedIn about, is consulting dead, is accounting dead, is legal dead, um, and the short answer is not yet, right? Uh, but there's one thing that's important: their business model is dead, right? The way you've delivered your services, the value you provided, um, the approach you've taken, those are going to change and are already changing quickly. I'll just give you one example. Most professional services firms have historically invoice or bill their client by the hours, right? I mean, that's been a standard model forever. And I think lawyers still do it, consultants still do it, accountants definitely still do it. So what's AI doing to that? Well, you're compressing days of weeks of work in minutes. And if your model is to bill by the hours, you're clearly going out of business, right? Because what used to take and generate a week worth of billing, literally, if you're honest, will now be 5 minutes of billing, right? So how do you sustain that business model, right? So I think they're not necessarily going away. I think, I've been in the consulting business forever. I think we were not always hired because of what we can do, our skills. Sometimes we're hired because the company wanted someone from the outside, right?
Mm.
That's not going to change. They wanted an outside judgment. They wanted another point of view. They wanted another human to come tell them what they knew already, right? So that's going to stay. But I think how you deliver it, how many people it takes, how long it takes, how you build your clients, that is already changing dramatically.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. There's certainly a lot there because you're right. Consulting, professional services, billing by the hour. I want to ask a question related to this. I'm talking with company leaders all the time now. And from that model, to reinvent, to pivot, to think about that, and in the professional services world, if we think, okay, if you're just billing by the hour, like you're saying, now you can be much more effective. So you can do a week's worth of work in minutes or hours or what have you, significantly less time and probably higher quality with a lot less stress on your side. You can just do it significantly better. You and I do this, I'm sure, every day with the tools that we're using with AI today because we're deep in it. So for changing the business model or business approach perspective, do you recommend that firms move toward more of a, like you were saying, like outcome based? And so So how would that apply practically? Does that move more into like packages, like we are going to deliver XYZ outcomes and we're going to charge you, X for that, and if we give you these outcomes, we're going to charge you Y for that, versus we're going to charge you by the hour to get to that same outcome? So is that sort of how you do it?
And it's not just outcome as much as value realized too, right? And that can bring some interesting, business model where you pay by the result or the ROI or the you return on investment, as opposed to just the time it took, right? So definitely outcome based billing, return based billing, and packages. I think that's the first thing you're seeing firms do today. Is they're going to, if you're an accounting firm, you have an audit package A, B, and C. You have a tax package A, B, and C, right? And then you'll adapt it to every client, right? But still, they're going to be tremendous pressure, and we'll talk where the pressure is coming from, I'm sure, later on. But they're going to be tremendous pressure to change and evolve all of this.
That's very good. Let's talk about the emotional side of this. Okay, as humans, we have emotions. It's arguable whether AI and these technology systems out there are ever gonna have any of that in reality. But right now, it's in humans. So if we think about every industry, but in professional services as well, where you play and specialize in, there's a lot of anxiety in professional services. There's fear of replacement. There's loss of expertise, right? Like other companies could get ahead of you. Other companies maybe that are integrating AI faster may get the jump on you. They could be automating faster. They could be delivering value to their clients better. And the human aspect of all this is really, really important. How do you help leaders and teams engage with AI without losing their sense of purpose and value?
That's a phenomenal question, Matt, and obviously I don't have all the answers. I think what we need to look at is what does human provide and will continue, I believe, to provide amazing value. Judgment, having empathy, being able to understand and read between the lines, right? So when you think about Gen AI, it was great in making answer on things you've seen before, right? A model is just a compressed way of compressing the entire digital world, right? But what if it's not there, right? And I think us have this ability to think about something that's out of the box, that wasn't written, that is, reading our language. You're shaking your hand here. I understand. I can see your emotion. Unless someone's going to tell me soon you're going to have that on Zoom, right? You're going to be able to read the emotion live, right? But I think we're still able to do things that that AI can do, right? So I think the anxiety have to be back to, let's use AI for doing the things that either I'm not good at, I don't like to do, that I know things an agent can do much faster than me and better. But let's use me as a review, as a gatekeeper, as an innovator, as reading in between the lines. I'm keeping in professional services. It's all going to be about the human connection, as long as we still have human in organization making decision, right? 10 years from now, it may be different. But until then, when the human is still in control, I think the role of human has to be, staying in control and also directing this powerful tools.
Yeah, it's very true. It's about human relationships at the end of the day. That's how you're getting the contracts. That's how you're delivering the value. You're helping the humans in the other organization, in your client organizations. Let's talk about some practical examples, Daniel. I know our audience loves, all right, let's roll up our sleeves. What are some things? So can you share an example where AI could be chatbots or automations or predictive analytics or anything that, comes out of your tool belt there, from from an implementation point of view. Can you share an example where AI like meaningfully improved operations and also respected the human workflow? So this combination of the human ingenuity and talents and value that you're talking about with AI's ability to bring in, additional superpowers of automation and processing.
Yeah. I can use my example because, of course, I'm a startup founder. What I'm doing today couldn't be done 5 years ago at the pace and the velocity we've done it. That means we're using agentic AI daily and constantly. Um, Between you and I, it sometimes give me the feeling that I'm cheating, meaning that really should I just not go in a room by myself and do it on a whiteboard? Um, but I think what's important is to respect that human is find something, and for me, it's been content writing and research. I'm a big always loved doing research, and every time I tackle a project, I've always spent hours researching, educating myself, making sure I'm looking at all the options available, synthesizing everything, and then I'm gonna do something, either write a paper or write a blog article or do something. And I think for me that AI is giving me this superpower of being able to do something that one writing I didn't like, researching a lot, but the writing going from the research and getting all those ideas to down to paper was not something that I always ever been good at. And I think AI is giving me that superpower, right? And I think that what I'm extremely conscious of doing it is using it not just to shortcut, but to essentially help me understand those concepts I want to talk about. So I'm using it to learn faster and better, and then doing the things I really don't, which is translating those ideas, right? Um, so use it to be, creative. I use it to, you know, help me research and then synthesize and really took something that's big and long and make it compact in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I have a question for you about productivity that just came up because I think about this all the time, and also as a founder of a company bringing a lot to market. I share this with my family and colleagues from time to time too. We talk about like how much more productive you are with AI. You mentioned earlier like Perplexity and chatting with Perplexity, and yeah, it does feel like you're cheating sometimes. You're like, whoa, I can take everything from all those conversations, from all those documents, and I can put them together with my brain and my ingenuity, and I can sort of like be the orchestra conductor and come up with this amazing email response or summary article or whatever you're doing. So all these things. So question for you on the way that you apply it. So I guess ballpark, how many times more productive do you think you are today than you were several years ago before you dove into leveraging AI? And then the second part of that question is, what do you do with the extra time that you save from working with AI? Are you reinvesting it in so you can be even more productive, or are you doing other things? So that's sort of a two-part extra question for you.
It's a great question. So I mean, it's hard to quantify how more effective I am. I want to say 10x, 20 times X, maybe in some tasks, 15 others. Um, and when you're working on a startup, it's hard, right? There's always this assumption, those movies, startup, you're working 24/7, 16 hours a day. Yeah, sure. But we all know this is not good for humans, right? Well, we need to sleep, we need to relax. And I think what AI is giving me is this ability to be extremely intense for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, but then be able to completely relax. I've done more than I thought I could do today, right? And I think I never had that feeling before. you're always like, oh my God, I'm done with my day. I still have 20 things to do.
Mhm.
In time where I'm like, I set my goal to have this done this week, and on Thursday I was done. I'm like, all right, I can take a few hours off. I can just do some other cool stuff, right? And I think that's if you fast forward, I think as human, that's what I think we need to look forward to about AI. It's not that we're going to be super efficient. Maybe we're going to have to work less to produce the same outcome, right? Uh,
Mhm.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think everyone should welcome that, as long as you make the same earning, of course. But that's a different story. But yeah, no, it's been great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel very much the same way. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic about the earning side of it and how it affects the economy. And there's a lot of changes we're coming up on. We've already hit a lot. Let's talk about some of the challenges that leaders face today. Like what are some of the mistakes that you see leaders of companies when they're rolling out AI without preparing people emotionally, culturally, right? You and I both played a lot in the change management
Mhm.
spaces in our careers. And, what happens, like, where are leaders maybe taking the wrong steps right now related to all this?
There's a lot of places. You know, Historically, technology have always been a top to bottom, right? We're going to put this new ERP system, came from the top, and we're going to roll it out, right? And that's the top to bottom decision. Lots of decision have been top to bottom, especially when it comes to technology, right? And I think the first mistake I've seen leader do is thinking, oh, that this is going to be the same way. Here's Copilot, use it, you're going to be 30% more effective. Well, may not work that way, right? I think that, more than ever, we know that change management always have a resistance. You have that curve where, productivity dip first before it comes up, and there's tremendous amount of resistance. And I think AI is one of those where you can see and you can expect a much larger level of resistance in some areas, knowing that you're asking people to find ways to make themselves irrelevant. Right? If you ask people to use AI in certain job, which is a lot of those white collar job, which is I'm going in this system and then I go in this system and I recreate the same transaction and then I'm talking to a human, then I'm going this and putting notes of it. Now you're going to ask a human doing this to say, well, just put an AI agent in place. I don't, it's going to make your life easier. But doing so would also make your life completely irrelevant or your job irrelevant, right? So I think that I've seen that mistake all the time. One, it's not top to bottom; it has to be bottom up. We have to give people at the bottom the ability to experiment so that they can get excited. And then once they experiment to find ways to solve a problem, more like a game or a challenge, to say, I'm going to give you this tool. Your job is to make your life more effective so you can do your work in 4 hours instead of 8. And I'm going to reward you for that if you succeed, not the other way around, right? So I think that there's got to be a way to let people experiment. If you put too much control around it, and that's a very delicate, proposition I'm giving you, because control means governance, mean making sure you don't leak things. And so there's got to be some level of rule of the game, right? But establish the rule of the game and let people experiment and continue to experiment and let them find ways. That's how the most successful company have deployed AI over the last 3 years or so, is the one that have let people just do it and discover. Again, I can speak to my first reaction. When I first started using ChatGPT, I'm like, all right, that's cool. All right, move on. Um, and it probably took me 4 or 5 months. And I tend to be that geek that always want to get the new technology under my belt, right? But even myself took me a while where I felt like I was now more effective using the tool than I was before, right? It wasn't just a game, but I became more effective. It took a long time Uh, and I think we just need to let people feel their way around it until they see that aha moment where they feel like, all right, now I can use AI and be more efficient in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you're sharing, Daniel. There's so much that can, and this is where is the two things you just talked about is the governance and the guidelines, guardrails. Like get that organized. There's a balancing act. It's not all governance. It's not all top down. But then on the people side of it, like how can the people experiment? Like think of the book Lean Startup, right? It's like make a whole bunch of things, see what's working, ride that wave, move in that direction, shut down the other things, and just the more you can experiment. AI gives you the ability to do that very, very rapidly. Let's put the crystal ball in front of you for a second and just let's look ahead as we wind this down. I'm just curious, looking ahead in the professional services industry, how do you see AI reshaping the professional services model or the industry or anything related to what you do and what your industry does over, say, the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years, but as far as how you want to look?
Yeah, and so we started that conversation. I think that one, the business model is going to change, right? So leaders in professional services have to take the lead to understand how is our model going to change, right? Not how AI, how are we going to integrate AI? What is AI doing for me as a business, in the way I'm perceived by my clients? um, and how's that model going to change? Why? Because your client will expect you, if you're providing service to me, Matt, that you are using AI and that you're as efficient as you are, because I don't want to spend $1 million if you can do it in $10,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that expectation is driving this. So the model has to change. And that is strategic, right? So business have to think about strategically about how business model is going to change, how we're going to impact, how are going to we react to this, what are we going to do that's innovative so that we can sustain ourselves and be successful down the road. Of course there's going to be a lot of AI in between, right? When you think about AI, it has to become, we talk a lot about becoming AI native, right? And I think, we are targeting a lot of the mid-sized professional services firm, right? Why? Because the small one, they're going to embrace AI from the beginning, right? They can be nimble and change quickly. The big one are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in rethinking their business model with AI. The mid-size are the one that are squeezed in between. They're going to see competition from those startup, like they are now literally legal AI firm that says we are using AI, the core. We're not going to charge you $900 an hour because we are a legal AI firm, right? You're going to see that happen. But the big one are saying now we're big, we have technology, we can go down market, and we're going to own that market too. So those firms in the middle have to think straight about, be competitive, and it starts today. Well, it started a year ago, but really they should start today.
Yeah, it's very true. I want to, without disclosing too much of your secret sauce, I want to lean in toward sort of what you're building now. I know you're building some really cool stuff with your company. New AI venture aimed at redefining how businesses operate, right?
Yeah.
So without giving away too much, to our audience of leaders, what excites you most about what you're building and how it's going to impact the market?
Yeah. So when I think about professional services, I'm thinking about what I call an operating system. What is the pillars that those organizations need to be successful in the age of AI? The first thing I'm going to start with, and that's what really was the genesis of the birth of Experio, is this concept of institutional memory, right? We know that agentic AI only works if there's good memory and good access to your knowledge, right? And that's really hard, and that hasn't been solved at scale yet. So the first thing we're building is this concept of organizational memory. The second pillar is, for AI to be successful, it has to understand your domain. So it needs to speak your language, and language of professional services is unique. It's not the same as pharma or manufacturing, right? So the domain expertise is critical. The third one is to think about AI as a partnership with human. What I mean by that, it's not a replacement, but a amplifier of humans. The fourth area is, how do you think about AI from an accuracy standpoint, right? And I think the trust aspect of AI is critical in professional services. There's been all those cases we've heard about Deloitte, being sued because they made a case and there was like fully generated by AI and nobody reviewed it, right? Um, so for AI to work, it has to have transparency and traceability. And that's a big problem today because most Gen AI is a black box. You don't see why it happened. You just see some magic. Maybe it gives you some citation and sources, but not why, right? And the why is critical. And the last aspect is of this OS is you have to think about how you're going to embed AI in everything you do, right? In every workflow, right? So think about, you've been in consulting. If you do a discovery with a client, that's always very time consuming. It creates friction. Nobody wants to go for a discovery, right? But what if you had an agent doing that, an AI voice agent that could, you know, be deployed to your customer, and your customer can call them or WhatsApp or do text and say, let's do a conversation here. And that agent can now, interview 1,000 people at scale. And the cost to you as a consulting firm is truly zero, right? I mean, you already built that agent, so it doesn't cost you more. Now you can provide a really good product to the end user, right? You got a massive discovery. You didn't spend too much time. It didn't cost the client a fortune, but now you really understand the heart of their problems. As consultant, you'll be able to deploy that. So think about where you embed AI along the chain, right? And that's a multi-year journey, of course.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as you continue to expand your vision and all that you're doing there, Daniel. Daniel, as we wrap up, where can listeners learn more about you, your work with Experio Labs, and connect with you about any topics we talked about today or anything more? Human-centered AI solutions, professional services, or they're just curious to learn more about you?
So number one, they can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's how we met, Matt. I love sharing my ideas and my work on LinkedIn. So look for me, D Cohen-Dumani. And you can email me, find me on Twitter as well, or X. And I'm happy to meet with everyone and talk about those exciting subjects.
That's fantastic, Daniel. We'll include all that in the show notes too. Thank you for verbally saying that, because then people can go find you online. Sometimes people are listening in the car, etc. So really appreciate your time, your energy, all of your amazing insights that you shared today, Daniel. Thank you so much for being part of the program today.
My pleasure, Matt.